Okay, so I kind of forgot to analyze the whole background and the sky and ground thing when I was talking about analyzing the symbols. So I'm just gonna roll that in with the subject of this video, which is just a review of how this painting is a logical outgrowth of my research, which dealt with what influenced the surrealists to create the type of paintings that they did. So in case someone is extremely dim-witted and missed out the entire point of all these videos, I shall make it perfectly clear for you. The blue sky and the ground are Dali trademarks, I guess you could say. A lot of his works, including The Persistence of Memory, the Melting Clocks picture, do have blue sky and brown, kind of barren grounds as backgrounds. And I don't have the rocks of Cadaqués there, but well, I've never been there before, so I have no reason to include it. This is, speaking of the rocks of Cadaqués, this is actually a homage as to where I actually live in HK. I love to throw symbols and references of Hong Kong in my work because that is where I am from. And I grew up there, love it a lot, where my childhood memories are, that sort of stuff. So in a lot of my works, especially like my last 3 or 4 works, I guess, minus 1 or 2, I don't know. A lot of my works I put homages of my homeland, I guess you could say, into my picture, and this pink building right here is a reference to where I live. I actually live on the second floor, I believe, I think. Yeah, it's been a while. So, uh, kind of flashback to where I used to live, minus all the windows and balconies, of course. Got kind of lazy there. But I do view the building with fondness. Back when my teacher was uh, um, revamping everything about my painting, I told her the pink building has got to stay. I'll tone down the intensity of the pink building, but it has got to stay. And yes, the building is actually pink. So that is my little equivalent of the rocks of Cadaqués, right there. It's more of it's a little bit of a background slash midground kind of thing. But yeah, the sky and the ground are Dali trademarks. This whole composition was like one of Dali's older works, except Turned Sideways. And the sky with the whole colors thing in there is something that the Renaissance people did, and something that Dali did quite a lot. He used limited palette colors, which I also did here. I also tied some into the ground as well. So, let's see. So here's the whole rundown of my research part. Don't have a lot to connect with Freud, minus my take on the whole repressed desire, which is my desire to be happy and away from all the stress. And, influences. Dali was obviously the big one. Background, reference to homeland, all the things that he used to do. Well, yeah, he used to do, because poor guy's dead now. And then the female figure is a reference to Leonard Carrington. The Houses of Legs is, I suppose, also a reference to another of Dali's work, Temptation of St. Anthony, which does indeed use houses with legs, as well as horses with really long legs too. But this is a different way. It's in my style and not his. Just like how the Surrealists used World War I, II, and the Spanish Civil War as influence as to their painting as far as political wise goes. I used the housing boom and bust along with college application process, well, kind of, as political influences on my painting. Obviously, more on the housing boom and bust than on colleges, because that's more of a personal thing. But that was my take on the logical way of thinking of housing boom and bust, which is just take your crap with you and go. So political influences wise, that's that. Don't have a lot of economic influences. Didn't really talk about much of that either. Don't have any ties to communism, which they did. Except communism really isn't too big of a thing now anyways. And I suppose you could say, well, not really, because this is in HK and not in China. Two completely different areas. Let's see, what else that I have not already said? Cultural influences, obviously the cranes, quite obviously. Personal influences, past memories. I use my past memories of when I, as a fourth grader or was a fifth grader, I think it was fourth grader, went to my sister's school and blew a bunch of bubbles, which of course made everyone feel like, oh, that's such a cute little sister. But anyways, that's a memory of me blowing bubbles, which I added there. The cranes, for the obvious reason that I folded about 400 of them, and thus would be very familiar with what they are. And that's personal wise. Dolly did a similar thing. Autumn cannibalism, which I talked about in my PowerPoint, and otherwise had influence in actually was influenced by the Spanish Civil War and also by Dolly's first kiss with his wife Gala. So this was influenced obviously by the holding thing and also by my own memories of my childhood happiness, which is kind of the point of the painting. So as you can see, I drew quite a bit of parallels between the two, between surrealism and my work, drawing a lot of influences. I bet a lot of them people wouldn't have even noticed if the artist had not explained. So, it's actually kind of like how surrealists worked. Like, they didn't bother with explaining their stuff. They just drew and they painted, and people were like, oh, that's so weird. We don't get it. We don't have to get it. But in fact, when people explain it, it makes perfect sense. So, in the sense of surreality, as in above reality, as in the perfect world and the freedom of mind and speech and thought, here is my take on it. In this world, which I depict on my canvas, which I would very much love to jump into the painting, is above reality, it's past all of reality's troubles, it's a hell lot better than reality, excuse my language. And freedom of thought, creativeness. My mom would say that this is extremely abstract, but I don't really think so. People just don't really get it when you look at it. They're like, what the heck? Skeleton legs, bubbles, cranes. Okay, that looks nice. Next picture. But in fact, it's there, it's real, and it makes absolutely perfect sense to me. Well, to me, anyways. But, as I said in the very beginning of this project, I will be drawing I did draw influences between surrealism and my work, and explained what influenced me as I did my work. And I did draw a lot of references, but I downright refused to copy other artists' work. It's perfectly legal. It's called assimilation in the art world. But I refuse to copy all the other surrealist masters' work and just tag them together and be like, okay, here it is, and here's this and this from this and this part's work. I understand how I will need to connect my product to my research, but I refuse to make copies of other people's work simply because my creative thoughts and my creative mind as a artist would be extremely insulted by it. It's my work, not theirs. I have no reason to copy other people's work, and I am good enough to make my own work, and therefore I have no need to copy another person's work because I have a mind and I don't need to rely on another person's mind. Well, as far as my art goes anyways. So, that's that for people who absolutely did not look into my videos. This is how I connect my product, which is this thing right here, and my blog, to my research, which is an 11-page long paper that I should upload into my blog. So that's about it. And this is the next to the last video, I believe.